Good evening, everybody. Tonight, on this discussion episode, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Season 1. For the last day or two, I've been doing some research on the story so I can be as accurate as possible when I'm explaining The Last of Us. Like with the characters, we'll dive into the characters of, kind of like give you a good idea of who they are and what part they play in the story. And we'll also learn what this virus, which it's not really a virus, it's unlike The Walking Dead, it being a virus. This is a fungus that mutates. And I have information on that I'm going to share. And it don't turn you into zombies, it turns you into something else. And we'll get a little bit more into that as we get on with the discussion. But this is The Last of Us discussion, season 1. If you're new and don't know anything about The Last of Us, which I'm sure a lot of you do, we're talking about the TV adaptation on HBO Max, which is called Max now. Season 1 is available on there. And I guess any streaming thing that has The Last of Us, or you can watch it on there. But yeah, we're going to be talking about it. But let's not forget that The Last of Us started out as a video game, which I've got it full walkthrough of The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 on my YouTube channel. If you want to check that out. I've got the video game adaptation because the TV show is pretty much, kind of like, I'm going to compare it to The Walking Dead on this part. The Walking Dead TV show is a lot different than the comic book, and just as well as The Last of Us TV show has similarities to the video game, like certain parts, but is a lot different. But as far as the storyline and the concept and everything, is pretty much the same. A little bit more character development in the TV show than you see in the video game, but the names are the same. The occupations of the characters is the same, and nothing's really changed on that end. But yeah, it started out as I want to believe it was a PlayStation 3 game. I've just recently become familiar with it and played the games. They are great games. You really get involved with the characters and the storyline. It is a very emotional game for real because there's a lot of emotional parts to it, and you understand. The story, like when you get down to the end of it, you get it. Like I said, we're going to dive into that. There's nothing left to do but do it. Let's get right into it. The Last of Us. But yeah, it's a video game for Sony PlayStation. It was made by a video game group called Naughty Dog. They also do the Uncharted series, which has a movie adaptation to it. Old games like Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. If you're a video gamer, you know what I'm talking about. But anyways, The Last of Us discussion. I got some notes written here. Like I said, I want to be as accurate as possible. So here we go. The origin of the virus, which I'm going to call it a virus. It's called the cordyceps brain infection, originated from a mutated fungus in South American crops, then spread through contaminated food. For example, flour, grain, anything with like that would use anything like that. If you make a birthday cake, you use flour or something like that. I advise you not to eat the damn cake. in this, in this story, because you will become something very nasty. And as it just keeps growing, it keeps developing. It's like stages. And what's weird about it, it's like I keep comparing it to The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead is just zombies. Only thing alive in them is their brain. That's it. Well, with The Last of Us is a lot different. The people are still alive. Yeah, they're still still people, but it's changing them. It's mutating. Making them have rage and stuff like that. And the more it mutates, the more your body's going to mutate. And there's different variants as it progresses on through the body. First you'll start out, just with it mutating. They call them runners, and then later on you'll mutate so far, they'll call you a stalker or a clicker that make a certain sound, like that's the sound they make. But the things with the clickers is, if you're still enough and you're quiet enough, it can move around. Because when you get to the clicker stage, you can't see out your eyes no more, because your head's done, bursted open like fungus, like mold. Yeah, they can't see nothing, but they can hear. So if you're quiet enough, you can move around them, sneak past them, and they won't bother you. Now, as you keep progressing past the clicker stage, you become, what they call a bloater. A bloater is a gigantic clicker-looking thing with these things that it can pull off its body that have smoke or something, kind of like a fume coming out of them. It's trust me, it's disgusting. It's nasty, and as it develops, it just keeps getting nastier. It keeps getting worse. Yeah, so Walking Dead is a walk in the park compared to this shit. And they can beat the hell out of you. It's almost like what's that movie, World War Z, where they're running at you, they're fighting you. It's insane. Yeah, they beat the hell out of you. So basically, don't eat a birthday cake that involves stuff like yeast, and flour, anything with grain in it. Because if you notice in The Last of Us, if you watch the show at the beginning with Joel's daughter, Sarah, at the beginning, she asked him to get a birthday cake, because it's it's Joel's birthday. He forgot to pick up the cake or something like that. And but Joel is not a big fan of cake, if I'm correct, because in this show it's always good to pay attention to the dialogue, and because you'll learn a lot through dialogue that they don't show, but they do speak about it. I believe Joel's not real big on cake and pancakes and stuff like that. So that's probably the reason why he wasn't infected, because he was not really into things like that. And his daughter Sarah wasn't infected either, but we'll get to that. So basically, let's not mess with that. Speaking of Joel Miller, our main protagonist, his occupation was hardened smuggler. Yeah, smuggler in the post-apocalyptic America. Also, he was a contract worker, because you'll notice that he worked with his brother Tommy, and is like building things, like buildings and maybe putting roofs on and stuff like that. He was in that, and he's also an ex-army vet, which so is his brother Tommy, and so are a lot of characters in this series. But yeah, Joel Miller has a daughter named Sarah. He's got his brother named Tommy that he works for. I believe Joel was previously married or something like that. Either his wife had passed away. They don't really get into it. They don't really talk about her in the video game or the show. So you really don't know if maybe they were divorced or she passed away or there was an accident. Um, there's really no explanation on Sarah's mom in either format. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's sad what happens to Sarah in the show, because when all this starts taking place and all this, this pandemic, this fungus mutation starts, affecting the world. Like I said, Joel and Sarah was not infected. Neither was his brother Tommy. They make an escape or whatever, and they get into they're leaving town basically. It's evacuation, and they end up getting into a wreck. They end up getting sideswiped on the street, and everybody's good. Everybody survives, but Sarah messes her ankle up, breaks her ankle or something. She can't walk. So Joel is running with her in his arms through town. Tommy barricades himself inside of a bar. He tells Joel to go on. He'll catch up. As Joel's running through the crowd in the streets, and everybody's in panic, and it's chaos. You see airplanes crashing in the sky and stuff like that, where everything's affected. They run up on a military soldier, which as Joel's telling the soldier, we're not infected. She just broke her ankle. We're good. We just need some help. He radios in and more than likely gets the orders to say, hey, kill everyone on sight. So the military guy opens fire, ends up shooting Sarah. I don't think Joel got shot. I believe when he fell down with her or whatever while she was in his arms, she took most of the shots. So, but then Tommy appears and shoots the military soldier in the head because he was getting ready to kill Joel too. And that pretty much brings us, 20 years later, they wake up and to me, it's almost like a blockade city in Boston where everything's done happened. Now Joel's a smuggler, a supply smuggler, like medicine. I'm wanting to say he has a romantic relationship with a woman named Tess, because they don't really get into it in the video game, nor do they do it in the show. But I'm going to say there was something, something deep, with them too. Them just being, smugglers or whatever, of supplies sneaking. But there had to be a little bit more to it, And on the supply, so basically Tess, that is another character in the story. Tess is also a hardened survivor and Joel Miller's smuggle partner. Yeah, so basically she helps Joe smuggle stuff like medicines and guns or whatever they can get their hands on to get to make money or make these ration cards, which you'll see that they have to line up for food and everything. So basically, Tess gets jumped by somebody that they know that used to be a part of the little clique that they had in the blockade. His name's Robert. Don't know much information on him because he doesn't last very long in the story. So they get approached. Tess and Joel get approached with a proposition. from a woman named Marlene. And Marlene is a leader of a militia group called the Fireflies. And they are also the keeper and overseer of, which we will soon learn of, a little girl named Ellie here in a few minutes. So she needs. So basically, Marlene knows Tess. She knows Joel. Because Joel's brother Tommy was joined the Fireflies at one point. Evidently, things went south, and he ended up leaving because she was basically, telling everybody, this is going to be over with one day, giving people hope is what it is. Come to find out, hope was a bunch of bullshit, and there was probably not going to be any cure, and this is life now, so deal with it. So Tommy, disappeared, left the Fireflies. Him and Joel got into a heated dispute. Like I said, it doesn't show it in the video game, it doesn't show it in the show, but you do hear about it in the dialogue in the game that they got into it and went their separate ways. Tommy went his separate way. But anyways, they get propositioned, Joel and Tess, to smuggle something out of town, out of the blockade city. And it's hard to get anything out of there because they have guards. They've got, what they call police and stuff like that, military enforcers. You got to sneak around because outside the city is nothing but, like I said, clickers and stalkers, these fungus mutated beings that are basically, they're not dead, they're just mutating, they're just transforming in different stages, and they're rough, they're violent, and like it's a apocalyptic setting, so buildings are falling apart, cities are destroyed, falling apart, rotting. There's humanity is on its last leg of whatever's trying to survive. Basically, kind of like The Walking Dead. Let's just go ahead and say it's kind of like that, but a little bit rougher when it comes to the zombies and stuff like that. It's got a lot of similarities because your main thing with The Walking Dead is, yeah, it's got zombies, but the main thing you fear in that show is not the zombies for real, because the zombies are just, unless you get a horde of them, but they're creeping so slow and shit like that. You can overpower them because humans are stronger than zombies and faster and stuff like that. So, but this is a whole nother thing here. These things you're fighting can run, they can punch, they have excessive hearing. In each stage they just get worse. And when they gang up on you, they, are swarm you. I mean, they're just punching you, they're ripping and tearing. It's just full on. If you don't act fast and haul ass and hope you can outrun them and hide somewhere, it's gonna be hell. They're gonna get you just like that. But yeah, it's basically the way the cities are. The cities are falling apart. Everybody's pretty much have turned, except for whatever's left of regular human beings, out there surviving. But yeah, Marlene propositions. So Joel meets this little girl named Ellie that Marlene is basically overseeing, is pretty much her guardian at the point, at the time. And there's a reason why Ellie is a special little girl and wants to be, and Marlene needs for her to be smuggled out, is because Ellie, I've got some information on her right here. Ellie is your central character. She's a 14-year-old orphan with a cordyceps infection on her brain, but is immune. So that means if she walks in a building with these spore things, that can also give you the fungus or whatever, she don't have to wear a mask. She just walk right through it. I mean, she's already got, she's already infected, but she's not mutating. She's still a little girl talking regular. It's she's immune basically. She's very special at this point. She is believed to be the center to making a cure to save humanity. And that's right, her blood or anything, but at what cost? Because they never tell you in this show that there is a possible, if they was to, operate on, or if they was to get her blood or whatever they need from her, and there's no guarantee that this will cure anything. But in order to try to develop a cure, that little girl is going to have to die, because there is no way of doing an operation like that and her live. And I'll touch on that real quick, because like I was saying earlier, Joel had a daughter. She got shot by a military soldier. She had a broken leg. She was not infected. Neither was Joel. Neither was Tommy. They were just trying to escape before it got, bad to the point. Well, you got to remember, people's eating cakes and bread, anything with fungus or anything like that, any type of food, contaminated food, or whatever they was eating, they're all getting ready to mutate. They're hit. And since these three didn't have anything like that, Joe don't fuck with pancakes or cake or nothing like that. And since Sarah hadn't ate anything, they were good. They hadn't been infected. So, yeah, there's no guarantee that what Ellie, her special, thing is, that it would cure anything. So, I mean, you would hate to get in there and find out, now we got this girl, some of her blood, we're trying to make it right. Come to find out, it's not going to work. So basically, you're killing a kid, a 14-year-old, for absolutely, you thought it was going to work, but come to find out it didn't. And it's like, let me get into the smuggling part, then we can get into a little bit of so basically Joel and Tess agree to Marlene to smuggle this girl out of the blockade and get her to a group that is waiting. It's a group of her fireflies that have come from out of town that are doing research on a possible cure that, Marlene knows about her immunity, because Marlene was friends with Ellie's mother, which had passed away after giving birth, because she was infected. She was bit. One of the clickers or runners or whatever had bit her. So basically, as she was pregnant with Ellie, I guess that's how she become immune. She had the virus, or she had the fungus in her. It's just that it didn't do anything. It's like if Ellie was to get bit, she wouldn't change when other people would change within an hour or within days. They'd be in the first stage or whatever. Ellie get bit, it's just going to heal up. So basically, Ellie's got to hide her immunity because people think she's crazy. They'll because you know how people are in panic. They don't believe there's a cure. They're going to think you're full of shit. No, there's no way. And just like Ellie shows Joel and Tess, the bite that she got, was on her arm is 3 weeks old and is healing up. bites from these creatures or whatever that you turn into, they don't heal up. You turn. And Joel thinks it's a bunch of bull crap, and Tess doesn't, because it's she already knows. They've seen enough of them get bit. They know what's happening. Well, anyways, they agree to smuggle her out to the Capitol building where the other group is supposed to meet them there, and basically that's the end of the deal. You take Ellie, take her to the building, to the other Fireflies that have come from, I don't know, I think Colorado at the time or something like that. You just take her, drop her off to them. You'll get what I owe you. That's it. That's as far as you got to go. Well, they do that. They make their way through there. They get stopped by military. They get caught. And they have these machines that they could check and see if you're infected or not, because they was out past curfew. They were sneaking, trying to get her out of there. And come to find out that when they ran the thing across the forehead of Ellie, it blinked red. It said she was infected. And that's when they found out that she was infected, because Joel at the time knew nothing about this. All he knew is he agreed to smuggling this little girl out. She was not allowed to tell him the reason why or anything like that. Tess didn't even know. And that's when she shows the bite on her arm. She's like, look, this is 3 weeks old. There's no fucking way that I'm going to turn. Because if I was going to turn, I would have done it as soon as I got bit, within hours. I mean, you have to believe me. I'm still, this is damn near healed up. So they continue on to the Capitol building and get there, fighting their way through clickers and runners and buildings falling apart, collapsing due to the apocalyptic post-era, and just dangerous tunnels and everything, because you don't know what you're about to run into. And when they get there to the Capitol building, there's nobody in sight. They get there, but on the way to the building, an accident happens, which is not brought up until they finally make it to their destination. Tess and Ellie get separated from Joel in a collapsed building, and he has to make his way around another way to get to them. And at that time, they're being, attacked by, I'm going to call them runners, because they're not actually clickers, because clickers are more of a fungal. They're like stage 2 and 3. Yeah, these are runners. They still sound human, but they just crazy. Come to find out, Tess had been bit on her neck. You couldn't tell until she pulled her shirt collar down, because she does tell Joe. He says, we got to continue on, or since the group is not there. He says, how far does she think we're going to take this? And Tess says, you take it as far as you need to go. You take it until you find them. And he says, no, we take her until. She said, no, this is going to be my last stop. And he doesn't understand why. And that's when she pulls the collar down and shows the bite mark on the neck. And Ellie already figured it out and kind of blurted it out before she did that. She said, oh, she must have been bit. So basically, a group shows up. It's not the group that's supposed to pick up Ellie. I think it's some of the militia that run the blockade. They show up because Joel and them wasn't supposed to leave a certain area, so they're going to basically persecute them and do all this stuff, lock them down, and punish them. So Tess ends up sacrificing herself, fighting them off, so Joe and Ellie can get out of there, and he can continue to take her or find where she needs to be, or where these people are, these fireflies, and you know, and now that they're starting to believe that there's something special with this immunity or whatever, and so he needs to basically, it's almost like save the world. This is a possible cure. I need to get you to a point to where they can handle the business. Boom. But as they travel, a bonding relationship starts to go on with Joe, probably, because of the loss of his own daughter. He begins to bond. They become close. On a journey like that, you would become close. You would, be, especially with a young kid like that, knowing that you had just lost one 20 years prior to all this, and you're probably still grieving inside, hurting inside, and so it's like there's a void in your heart that needs to be filled. And it's almost like Joe get it stuck in his head, like God gave him a second chance. Now he's got to care for this girl, and they grow close. And as he's on this hunt to find his brother Tommy, which Joe at one point was keeping contact with him. Tommy is held up in a town that is barricaded in, called Jackson City. It's a whole city or a whole town with walls built all the way around it. They got electric. They've got everything that they had before the world come to an end. It's just it's insane. But that's where he knows Tommy's at, because he used to keep radio contact until they had a big falling out. Then they basically stopped speaking, but he knew of his last known whereabouts, and that's where he was possibly at. But before they get there, an old friend that they served in the army with, the supplier, his name is Bill. Bill is the only survivor in this small town, his hometown, which he has booby trapped, and he can create bombs. He can come up with supplies and stuff like that. I guess for the exchange for food and everything else. Basically, Bill's like the plug to a dope man. Bill's the plug. If you need it, he gonna find it. He gonna hook you up, but you gotta hook him up. It's the plug, pretty much. If Bill can't find it, it can't be found. And he can make stuff. He makes weapons, bombs, anything. He's got the whole town booby trapped with explosives. Because he must have had experience with that in the army. And Joel knows about it. He's one of Joel's friends, served in the war with him. He's a very unique character. Real sarcastic, smart ass type of character. Yeah. Doesn't sugarcoat nothing, straight to the point. If your feelings get hurt, oh well, he don't give a shit. So we're on our way to find Tommy. We know where Tommy's at. It's just getting there to him. Come across Bill. He hooks us up with a vehicle. You'll see that in the show, and you see that in the video game if you play the game. He does hook you up with a vehicle to keep traveling to your destination, which you end up getting off track in St. Louis. You get barricaded in by this crazy militia group. You end up meeting these two boys. They're brothers, Henry and Sam. They're trying to escape or get out of the. They're trying to escape the city because this militia group is bad. They're killing people. They're no good. So they run into Joel and Ellie. They team up to get out of there, and Sam ends up becoming bit in an attack. He doesn't tell any of them. They go to sleep. They wake up the next morning, and he happened to already turn, and and he attacks Ellie. Uh, Joel goes to kill him, and Henry shoots, and he misses, but he basically tells him, "Hey, Joel, that's my brother. I'll put him down." But Henry's too emotional, that he's got to put his own brother down, and he's just breaking down, falling apart. Uh, he ends up killing his brother, and he ends up turning the gun on himself and unlifing himself, because having to kill, your family member or whatever, that would be very traumatizing, and it'd be hard to live with. And these boys are just boys. They're just kids. They're not grown ups or anything like that. They're probably no older than Ellie, or maybe just a little bit. Sam is younger than Ellie. Henry be about the same age, or a year or two older. Well, after that, we're pretty much Joel and Ellie back, just them two. Still doing the journey to get to Tommy. We just keep getting closer and closer, and they finally do make it to Tommy, and Joel pretty much wants Tommy to take her to the Fireflies, because he's pretty much done. You got to remember, at this point, Joel is 50-something years old. He's just getting old. He's basically done with this mess. He figures that Tommy used to be a Firefly. He knows him a little bit better. Tommy's a little bit more younger. That she would be in good hands with Tommy just as well as she was in good hands with Joel. But there's that bonding thing, like I was explaining. They've got this connection going, this bond. Ellie feels safe with Joel. She's not going to feel safe with Tommy, because she hasn't had that trip with Tommy like she has with Joel. She hasn't been with him since day one. So she's going to be scared. And Ellie's fear is ending up alone and having nobody. Because she does tell Joel that. She said, my only fear, she said, everybody I've gotten close to or was friends with, or, had some kind of, relationship with, they've either died or they left, and I ended up alone. That was her fear, was that, in this, end of the world type deal, to end up alone. So she was more comfortable with Joel. Which, of course, Joel and Tommy get into an argument. And Joel ends up deciding, what, fuck it, I'm not going to argue with you. I'll just finish taking her to where she's got to go. He needs to know where these Fireflies are held up at. And Tommy says last known whereabouts he knew of any was at the University of Colorado. So that's where they go. They go to Colorado, coming to figure out that as they search the buildings in the university, they come to figure out that they have moved somewhere else. They've moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, at the big hospital down there, and that's where they're currently at. So, but before they head to Salt Lake City, Utah, they get ambushed. Joel and Ellie get ambushed by this group. We don't know about this group. We don't know about a leader of this group. They just know it's some random people. They're not good. They're shooting at them, trying to attack them. They're trying to kill them. And Joel gets into a scuffle. He gets pushed off a balcony inside the university building or whatever, and gets a metal rod shoved all the way through him. As he hits the ground, it basically goes inside, out in his back, out his gut, and Ellie has got to pretty much protect Joe. Now here's where that bonding and that that thing come into play. Joe at this point has taught Ellie how to shoot. She has somewhat knowledge on how to shoot, but he's probably taught her a few things. It's almost like she's like a daughter to him now. So she's got to protect Joe. She's got to man up now. Joe's not in any condition to be doing anything. He's got a rod stuck through his back, hanging, poking out his gut. She's got to get him to safety, and sew him up and stuff like that. Try to keep him alive, but like I said, they get into it. Ellie holds her own. She kills enough of them so her and Joel can get back to the horse they were on that they got from Tommy, from Jackson, and they end up hiding out in a garage, and that's when Ellie is basically, I'm the protector of Joel because he's still injured. I got him sewed up, but he's in bad shape. He's got a bad infection. He could probably go at any time. So I've got to fend for me and him. So she's out hunting. She's out hunting for supplies, medication, anything like that. When she comes across a man, or she bumps into a guy named David while hunting for food in the winter. And from my knowledge, David is a leader of a group of survivors, which I'll go ahead and tell you, the ones that attacked Joe and Ellie at the university is also part of the group that David is running, or is a part of himself. David, to me, is a character that reminds me of Jim Jones. The crazy Jonestown massacre, don't drink the Kool-Aid type of deal. That's what he reminds me of. A real smooth talker, somebody you could probably, warm up to real quick, but he's not really a good person. It's almost like a manipulator type of deal. He knows what to say to get you to drop your guard, is what it is. Almost like a brainwasher. Yeah, something like Jim Jones. He's got a group. They're held up in this little small town, the abandoned small town. It almost looks like a resort, like something you would go to, like take a vacation, rent a cabin. It's just a little small town, got a few shops, and stuff like that. They're held up in a place like that. They're running low on supplies. Some of his people are, his survivors are hurting, but he is feeding them, but he's not feeding them food. He's killing people and they're eating humans, but he's not telling them that, because if they knew what they was eating, it would just be weird. So if somebody gets out of line and they lie and say they exiled them from the group or something like that, or they come across new people, they kill them and they take them back for dinner. Cannibal, kind of some Hannibal Lecter shit. So he's eating people. He's a cannibal. He's cannibalistic. He's just nasty. So he runs into Ellie. She's done got her a deer. She's getting ready to take it back. Do what she's got to do to feed her and Joel until she runs into David, Mr. Hannibal Lecter, Jim Jones, and he ends up, basically warming up to Ellie, getting her to drop her guard down, let her guard down to where she, thinks nothing's going to happen. And that's when he tells a story about a couple of my men went out. They came back and they told me a story about a man traveling with a little girl, and the group I sent out ended up getting killed by the crazy man with the little girl. They just did crazy things to him, just out of this world. Well, come to find out, the crazy man and little girl, he was talking about Joe and Ellie. And he knew it, that David knew it. He knew exactly. Yeah, he already knew it. So he basically knew who he was talking to. And so she ends up making it back to Joel with some medication that she got off of him, in the beginning before all that talking and him knowing who she was and all that happened. It was got some penicillin, syringe, shot Joel up with it to cure the infection. So she basically notices them outside the house or the garage that they're held up in with the horse and him laying on a mattress, healing from his injury. So she basically sneaks out of the house to lead them away from the house so they don't get to Joel and hurt him. And she ends up getting captured, getting ready to be turned into beef stew. And her and old David here, kind of, David's underestimating Ellie. At this point, Ellie is as strong. She's got a mouth on her too. She don't care. She's one of those kids ain't gonna sugarcoat it. Go tell you to go screw yourself. And stuff like that. She'll fight you. She'll fight. She'll fight if she has to. And that's what happens. An altercation breaks out. She kills some men. David, and he ends up catching her again in this bar, in this restaurant bar type of deal, and they end up tussling, and something gets caught on fire, so the place is going up in flames. So him and Ellie are going at it. She's trying to, basically keep from getting her ass whooped by David and becoming beef stew. Well, at this point, Joe is healing up. He wakes up. He's still in pain. But that penicillin shot did help him. And he ends up going looking for Ellie because he wakes up and she's not there. And he hears some noise outside. He notices some people wandering around. So Joel gets in full-fledged attack mode. And he goes hunting for her. Picking them off one by one. He saves two, tortures them a little bit to get the whereabouts and see if they have seen her. And they basically snitch because, as Joel's torturing the shit out of them. He's got them roped and tied up to chairs and done beat one with a club. So Joel's on the hunt for Ellie. He knows where she's at. He's headed to her location, or the town that she's in that they've captured her in. That's where he's headed. And as he gets there, he has to run in with some of the people or whatever. He has to do what he has to do. People do die. And he notices that he sees smoke and he sees a fire, and so he heads towards that. And at that time, Ellie is fighting with the David character. She's done stabbed him a couple times, and she's able to wrestle with him on the ground. He kicks her a few times. She ends up grabbing a hold of his machete, and story told short would be she grabs a machete, gets him on the ground, and basically hacks and hacks and hacks until there's probably nothing left. But at that time, Joel's done busted in, grabbed her up, because you gotta remember, Ellie's done been tortured by this cannibal guy. He was damn near getting ready to cook her, for God's sakes. She was getting ready to be somebody's dinner. So months pass after that. It's now springtime, and they have finally made it to Salt Lake City, Utah, where the Fireflies are at. They finally get to their destination, to the big, what is a hospital, St. Mary's Memorial Hospital in Salt Lake City. They get into a little, they have a rough entering down there, but they end up running into fireflies. They end up running into Marlene again inside the hospital. Joel is knocked out, but as he comes to, he wakes up and sees Marlene in the hospital room, and they start talking. And he asks where Ellie's at, and she's already been took to the surgery or whatever. And that's when Marlene says, "There's no other way to do this, Joel. That it is probably going to kill her. More than likely, it's going to kill her. There's no saving her." But Joel's then got attached to Ellie. He's then had a bond. He's then bonded with her. It's almost like she's almost his daughter now. She's almost taken place of Sarah. So, Joel being a father, he's not going to want to see, they're basically killing her, and there's no guarantee that this is even going to work. So, he doesn't fly off the handle, but he does get, kind of upset that y'all are going to, and plus it's a kid, for God's sakes. I could understand if it was a grown up, it wouldn't hurt, probably wouldn't hurt that bad. But it being a kid and him then getting attached to stuff like that, a little kid that's not going to have life after this, nah. So, he has basically completed his mission. He has brought Ellie and smuggled her plumb across the United States, been through hell and high water to get to where they're at. His job is done, and Marlene pretty much tells him that your job is done. Your job was to get her to where she needed to be. That's it. You're done. She's basically sending him back. You're finished. Well, Joel's not having it. He's not having it. Yeah, he's not having it. So he acts like he's going to leave, but he's really, has a second thought. It's basically a click in his head, like God's giving me a second chance here. I've got to save this girl, even though they're not going to ever get a chance of making a cure. Because once I do this, it's I'm putting humanity at risk here for a cure. So he makes his decision. He goes through them. He gets to the operating room. Basically the doctor says, "Hey, I can't let you do this. You don't understand. This could cure. There could possibly be a cure." But Joe don't give a shit, because the look on his face at this point is, you're getting ready to kill a kid. For that's all that's on his mind. I can't, and she's out of it. She's on the table. She don't know what's going on. So he kills the doctor, grabs her up off the table, undoes the tubes and everything, takes her out of there. Makes it to the elevator, makes it to the parking garage, and that's when Marlene shows up with gunpoint. Trying to get that final "you can't take her" deal, because she understands Joel's issue. She understands about, his daughter and stuff like that. She gets it. But, Joe don't care, because Joe's not talking at this point. Just the look on his face, the expression on his face is, basically, that's enough. I don't have to say nothing. But, and Joel ends up shooting Marlene just to get her out of there. And as she's crawling on the ground, she says, "You can't, you can't take her, or something." Or no, she tells him, "They'll come looking," or something like that. I forgot exactly what she says, but and then all he says is, you'll just keep coming for her," So he kills her right there in the parking lot. So basically, she won't come looking for her. And Ellie's still out from the medication, the anesthetics, and everything in the back seat of the car. Hey, Joel makes it out of there. Nobody's following him or anything like that. He's headed back to Jackson. He's headed back to Tommy. So they get to a point, I guess, run out of gas, and they have to walk the rest of the way. And that's when Joel finally opens up about Sarah to Ellie, since he didn't really talk about her in the beginning, letting her know that, hey, if she was still here, they would probably be good friends. They probably would have liked each other. Would have been real cool. And how they used to take hikes through the woods and stuff like that, and their bonding, their relationship type deal. And but before they get to Jackson, up on a hilltop, Ellie stops Joe, and this is the part where there's a lot of mixed reactions, a lot of mixed emotions on this part, because Joe pretty much lies to her. He keeps it a secret, like on in the car ride. She's, when she wakes up, she's like, "Oh man, this is over." He said, come to find, he lies to her. Says, come to find out, there were more immune people. They just basically stopped looking for a cure or something like that. Yeah, he bold-faced lies. Yeah, because she has no clue of what he actually did. And yeah, so he basically, she asks him to swear on something. I can't remember exactly, and he swears on it, but he's bold-faced lying to her the whole time, knowing if he told the truth, she would disappear. That's the only reason why he lied to her. And a lot of people, that are fans of the video game and stuff like that, there's the big question: was Joel right in the long run by saving Ellie, or should he had left her there? Well, my opinion, I understood why he saved her, because that bond, that daughter-like figure that he's got back in his life, he filled the void in his heart, the big hole that he had, that Sarah was filling, that Ellie was now filling. He's done traveled across the United States with this girl. He's attached at this point. I understand. I would have done the same damn thing for real. So to be honest with you, I think he was wrong. I understood why he lied to her, and that sooner or later the truth is going to come out. I mean, that's just how it goes. You can lie all day long, but sooner or later the truth is going to come out. And when it does, I think it would have been better just to go ahead and tell her, so she could have it be processing it and everything, and then for it to be waiting that long, however many years it took for her to finally figure it out. Because what's going to hurt the most is that in this story, she's going to figure it out on her own. And then she's going to ask him, and he's going to basically have to tell on himself. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's a great. This is a great. It's a great video game. It's got a great story, great concept. Like I said, it's to me, it's a little bit more emotional than The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead has its emotional parts to it, but The Last of Us is just a tad bit more emotional story. But basically, I have pretty much told you The Last of Us season 1 that is on HBO and Max. I mean, I've threw in a little bit of the video game too. Part 1 of the video game. There's 2 parts, because season 2 of The Last of Us on HBO Max is going to pretty much be The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, and we haven't got into that yet because it hasn't been released. I haven't seen the differences from the TV to the game. I played the game multiple times. I love it. Not a lot of people like the second one, because they don't. And there's a lot more characters that are going to be involved. So yeah, we're introduced to a lot of characters in the Last of Us Part 2. But this is pretty much Part 1 with Joe and Ellie and all the things that happen, the events, and I highly recommend, if you haven't seen the show, check it out. It's on HBO Max. Season 1 in full is now streaming. Season 2 starts April 13th on Max. So get ready, it's coming in a few weeks. I'm waiting on it. I can't wait to see how they do certain parts of the second game. And if you're a video game fan and you like playing games and you got a Sony PlayStation 5 or 4, you have PlayStation 4 or 5, I highly recommend you go get the games and play it. Man, you'll see, you'll like it. Trust me, you'll like it. You'll get invested in the character development and stuff like that, and the storyline's good too. But other than that, it's your boy Jay. This was the Last of Us discussion, TV show discussion / video game discussion, because I did throw a lot of that in there too. But if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell if you want to keep in tune with fresh content like this when I discuss things like this, or when I drop a song that I do, or I go live and do some walkthrough gameplay of video games. The Last of Us 1 and 2 live video game walkthroughs is on my channel right now for your viewing pleasure. Love it, hate it, whatever. That being said, hit that thumbs up button if you like what I'm doing with this content. You like what I did tonight. Thumbs up, thumbs down, your opinion. It's very welcome here, and I respect it. But other than that, I will catch you guys on the next live video. I hope I explained it as well as I possibly could, if you know what I was talking about. Everybody stay blessed. Have a great night, and I will catch you guys on the next one.